Okay, let's go ahead.
Mary Lynn Harris here, Hard at Work, and I'm doing a series of podcasts about how to create a impactful legacy in your business. So that's why I'm doing it. And why am I doing it is really just to help you as a business owner to have some tools and resources to go to help you do that for yourself. So anyway, here I have with me is Arnie Fonseca Jr. Junior, is that your father's first son, Arnie?
Well, yeah, but the junior is because I don't have a middle name, and because my dad didn't have a middle name, and he went by Arnold.
Okay.
I didn't like Arnold for a number of reasons, even though Arnold the bodybuilder was pretty prevalent when I was growing up. But so I started using the junior because, my dad was Arnold and I was Arnie, and that pretty much changed over probably since I was before I was 10 years old, because I just didn't want to use Arnold.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So that's how that came about.
Yeah, good. So anyway, Arnie is a men's coach, and he helps them have a more fulfilling and happier life.
Hopefully.
Well, I'm sure you're very good at what you're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we all want to be understood and encouraged, Marilyn. You and I have talked about that before. Yeah. And right now in society, men are kind of getting beat up. So there's a lot of confusion out there with the media, and because men don't know how to behave. And in relationships, women like that for a while until they want a man to be around, and then they kind of kick the boy to the curb and they wait for a man to show up. So it's cute for a while, but it's not sustainable. And because we all have two polarities, we have a masculine and a feminine polarity, and if we spend too much time in one of those, we have a problem. And in today's world, women are spending too much time, not because they want to always, too much time on the masculine side, but it's because with a 50% fatherless home situation, they have to be there to make sure the kids are being raised right, because guys aren't there.
Right.
And then the men are trying to spend too much time on the feminine side because they're trying to attract a female. But they don't understand how to best attract somebody because they're confused.
Right.
Hence, we have a major problem because men, regardless of what the media tells us or tries to sell us, men and women are very different.
Right. Mars and Venus, right?
What's that?
Mars and Venus.
Totally.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what do you think some of the obstacles, you explained some of them, are the men don't know how to behave.
Right.
What are some of the other obstacles your clients face?
How about just the two basic fears that they're never going to be loved and they're not good enough, which means they're going to go out and do stupid things for love, which means they'll behave inappropriately. They'll get involved in stalking type things. They'll get involved in being over aggressive, jealousy, all kind of dumb things for love. Because remember, in their mind, they're never going to be loved. So if they run into somebody that they think loves them and there's a fear that they're going to lose them, they'll do dumb things. Happens all the time. And it can end very violently, very violently. And it does many times. And then on the other side of it, not being enough, not being a good enough dad, not being a good enough this, not being a good enough that, will really weigh on somebody, male or female, but a guy, it'll weigh heavily on them. And so they're always trying to show off their muscles, let's say. And again, do stupid things, bad behavior, trying to, maybe it could involve alcohol and drugs to try to prop up that courage. And again, dumb things happen, and it creates a lot of chaos in society, in the community, all because of a fear of not being enough.
Right. Right.
So what
I
I
think
try to
that-
do, Marilyn, from the
yeah.
beginning is to get men or women, but men, since we're talking about them, to understand they must love themselves unconditionally,
Mhm.
period. End of story.
Yeah, I think it's the same for women too,
It's the
because
same for everybody.
yeah, because most of us don't think we're good enough. We'll never measure up. Our
Nope.
daddies never were there to
Hello.
support us.
And
So
so you got a bunch of us running around out there trying and making big messes, right?
right, right. Yeah.
Yeah. All you got to do is look at the news and you can see all the messes being made.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yep.
So we kind of discovered why they have the messes. So obviously, you think it's going to be a bigger problem, more to come yet? You think?
Oh, yeah. We haven't even started yet. We haven't
Okay.
even started yet. I mean, listen, I was just on the phone with a client who is trying to get a job.
Mhm.
He's an older guy. He's
Yeah.
running into a little bit of age discrimination,
Yeah.
but he's very bright, good-looking man. And he got nailed today on a background check that they did on him from a female, a very beautiful lady that he was dating years ago, that because of her wanting to control, because I know the situation.
Right.
And I've read the report, and really it was goofy. But you know what? She did it because she could.
Yeah.
And it was meaningless at the time, but it was her way of showing power, because women can show power too.
Mhm.
And God bless them, because I don't want any woman to ever be succumb to the power of a man, especially like in politics,
Right.
where they use the office as power
Mhm.
over another person. And that
Mhm.
happens way too frequently, because I've worked in that field with individuals. And to them, it's transactional, except when the woman says no.
Mhm.
So when this popped up in this man's life, it's now costing him employment,
Right.
because somebody did something that was just pretty much just from revenge.
Right.
But our society is not set up for that for right now. And I'm not defending men,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you right now it's being used as a weapon against men, good men.
Mhm.
Hey, look, I'm all for knucklehead men and women to
Mhm.
be read the riot act,
Right.
okay, and pay the consequences. Period. I'm not making excuses for bad behavior,
Yeah.
but when it's used as a weapon, and so to answer your question, because I love telling stories,
Mhm.
it's going to get worse,
Yeah.
because women know they can do it and
Mhm.
get away with it. So right now, hey,
And
things
men
swing
do
in
it
both
too.
directions.
They get away with that.
They can, it swings in both directions. So you got to be careful with these things.
Right.
And so to me, it's about being honest.
Mhm.
And if somebody runs a red light, you run a red light.
Right.
And if they don't, then let's talk about it.
Okay.
So I just think we have to be careful, because right now I think we're playing in the gray areas, and it's a slippery slope.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm. So what do you think some things that people in the workplace can do right now to help?
Communicate.
And so
Communicate. Everything is about effective communication and
mhm.
building relationships. Everything. I
Mhm.
was just on a phone call with somebody that's teaching a personality assessment course, and they're taking it global. It's like, wow, this is cool. But I've studied personalities, and so many companies have these now, but these guys have a company, and they're taking around offices and stuff. And she's right,
Yeah.
because we need to learn this stuff, how to talk to each other. But if
Mhm.
you're not talking to each other and you don't respect each other, the person sitting next to you, or at the water cooler, in the lunchroom, or at a company party, and you say, I've been there with companies that I owned, and somebody comes to me because somebody did something when they were out,
Right.
away from the business, on their own time, and I was being accused because I ran a company of sexual harassment.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we have to talk, and we
Mhm.
don't talk.
Right.
Because it's way too easy, Marilyn, to
Mhm.
talk to your neighbor or your brother or your cousin who tells you to go hire an attorney because you
Right.
can make some money.
Right. Yeah.
We have that lottery mentality going on.
Yeah.
And it's just not fair because
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking, because a lot of these things are silly and we can talk about it and communicate and respect each other
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to talk to each other. A lot of these problems can be solved really quickly. When they're at the, what I call the resistance stage, when there's just a little bit of resistance, like, I don't like this person for whatever reason. They didn't smile at me. They didn't hold the door open for me, or I didn't like the way they looked at me, or whatever, that little stage. And we can work through that initially until we get to because we don't want to get to the resentment stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then we certainly don't want to get to rejection, because that's where you're going to get in trouble.
Right.
Somebody's going to write you up, or somebody's going to go to the supervisor and say that this person is being this and that. And because of this, because I work with a seminar company in California where every company of a certain size has to go through sexual harassment, right?
Right.
And so I work with that company, and they're getting it started here in Arizona. And most CEOs, most managers are going to avoid that. So they're going to get rid of you rather than worry about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous. And when one party knows that, it's a lot of power, Marilyn.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what kind of clients do you really like to work with?
I want to work with anybody, Marilyn, who's inspired to be different.
Mm-hmm.
They're inspired by something to be a little different. Maybe it's to get a better job, or to change their life, or to go on an adventure, or be adventurous in their life. They maybe they want a new relationship. They want to find somebody special in their life, or they want to spice up their current relationship. They're inspired. They want to make a change. They want to be coached and mentored, and they want to learn. They want to change, because it's very difficult to change somebody that doesn't want to. I talked to a friend this morning. We were doing some stretching on the mat, and we were talking about Beanie Brown, that does a really wonderful teaching on vulnerability, and how that we're just talking about how people generally don't change until they're under enough pain.
Right.
Well, they'll change if there's enough pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So if they experience pleasure and it's enough, and that's kind of the thing behind the drugs, people that do like some of these heroin and some of these really high, powerful narcotics, because of the pleasure they're feeling.
Right.
Although it leads to pain. But he was right in that most people wait till something is painful in their life to change.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I've been there. Doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel good. But you can make it feel good if you change and you make a positive change in your life. So you can turn that in. You can turn what I call a level 2 experience, because it's painful. Doesn't feel good. But it's good for you to be better, right? To change. And it's good for other people, and it's good for the community. So it's a good thing. It's a learning how to change, whether it's pain or pleasure, is a good thing. So, yeah. So usually it takes pain to get people to change, Marilyn.
Right. Right. Okay. So you like to work with anybody that wants to be inspired and change. And so
that is inspired to make a change in their life.
Inspired.
They need that's my sweet spot. If they're inspired, I'm inspired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone calls me up and says they want to climb a big mountain, I'm going to say, let's do it.
Right.
Let's figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the big mountain it could be anything.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. So what services do you provide mostly? Is it coaching, encouragement?
Coaching, keynote speaking, workshops,
Mm-hmm.
breakouts, and conferences.
What's your favorite topic?
Man, in most companies, it's about effective communication, team building, fit, and culture with businesses. In relationships, it's about communication, effective communication, getting people to talk.
Right.
Yeah. And generally speaking, if at a company we are willing to understand the concept that teamwork makes the dream work,
right,
and they're willing to work towards that mission of the company and to build a really neat culture, that's fun to work with.
right,
also helping CEOs and managers and people that have control to understand the fact that they have to be aligned correctly in their own lives.
right,
And then I teach them that they work for their employees, meaning that they want to create an environment so that their employees can flourish and
right,
take off and make them a lot of money. But generally it's the other way around.
right,
And so we're waving our finger at people. We're telling them how to behave. We're threatening them, making sure they're hitting their quotas and their number of phone calls and all that stuff. And people have to earn trust and just blah, blah, blah. And they never get to do what they said they were going to do.
right.
And they get frustrated. So I see these young millennials, they get frustrated. If they feel disrespected or anything like that, they leave.
Yeah.
They don't really even care about money.
Yeah.
They just leave. Yeah, just like that.
Yeah,
So
much.
Yeah, so those are my favorite topics.
Very good, very good. So is there any couple of tips you want to share or give before we close off this call?
Yeah, the number one thing that I tell anybody today, let's just say 2019, try to see the world from the other person's point of view. Not always to understand it. Not always to agree with it.
Right.
Got ahead of myself. But to understand it.
Yeah.
And then encourage them. Because we're way too judgmental today. Everybody wants to judge other people if they don't see the way they do.
Right.
We're all doing it. And it's just wrong. It's creating a mass of confusion and anger and messes out there way beyond anything we've ever imagined. Because everybody is so doggone judgmental. It makes me sick. It doesn't, and it used to be just in politics and religion. Now it's everything.
Right.
It's everything. If you don't see it their way, so you know what that creates, Marilyn? No communication, because you're afraid to communicate with somebody because you're afraid you're going to offend them.
Right.
Heck, you can't even have a conversation with anybody anymore. It's sad. Yes. It really is sad.
Somebody by the cover rather than.
Well, and that's why in social media, what happens then is everybody either blocks somebody or just stays in their own little group. So you don't grow.
Right.
So you're basically just telling each other the same crap that everybody wants to hear.
Right.
That's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And see the world from someone else's point of view, not to agree with it, but to encourage them, not to change them.
Right.
To encourage them to be better, to learn, to grow, to be open-minded themselves. Yeah. That'll make a difference. So there you go.
That's great. I really liked hearing your stories, Arnie. You're always a good storyteller.
I know I can tell stories all day, so thank you for stopping.
As well for other people. So thank you for sharing all that stuff, because I think it's so important. And like you said, in the workplace, there's so much going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to close off the interview, but thank you, Arnie, for popping in again to me. One more thing is that when I post this below Arnie's interview, he'll be listing a link about his free gift or whatever it is that you want to take him up on his offer. And so what would it be, Arnie? You ever thought about it?
I'm going to give everybody that calls or gets a hold of me, two things: an intro session with me, and I'm going to give them a free audiobook of their choice. I have a number of audiobooks that I love to send to people, and I will shoot them over an audiobook that they might be interested in.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and I'm going to close out. Arnie gave some great ideas, some tips about challenges we have in the workplace, and as we really have to be more conscious and communicate. That's the number one thing, is to communicate with each other.
Communicate.
And be happy.
Yeah. Well, you will be happy, right?
Yeah.
You will. Heck, we've talked about this, Marilyn. If you're kind to your neighbor there at the workplace or at your neighbor at home, there's a good chance you're going to be happy.
And you're able to communicate better, more effectively.
Yeah, because, smiling at somebody is a form of communication.
Right.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yep. You got it, kiddo.
Great. Thanks, Arnie. And
all right, Marilyn. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate you.
We'll be chatting with all of you very soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.